So to start off, I would love to introduce our speakers. We have Natalie Clifford is the manager of academic programs within Work Integrated Learning programs at the University of Waterloo. Her work focuses on engaging Waterloo students in skill development during work integrated learning experiences and managing the academic components of Waterloo's professional development program. Andrew Burnett is an instructional support coordinator with Work Integrated Learnings as well. In his role, he manages the daily operations of online professional development courses and supervises 3 to 5 Waterloo co-op students each term. Andrew's experience as a co-op supervisor has led him to develop evaluation best practices within the WIL programs department. So without further ado, I'd love to pass it over to Natalie.
Oh, wrong way. Thank you, Vicki. Thank you everyone for attending the breakout session with us this afternoon. We're really happy to be here and to tell you a little bit more about our work that we do with co-op students within the WIL programs department at the university. So to give you a quick overview of the goal for the next 15 to 20 minutes or so, we'd like to tell you a little bit more about how we use performance evaluations and Waterloo's Future Ready Talent Framework to inform goal setting with our co-op students and to also create a productive, fulfilling and meaningful co-op experience for them when they're working in our department. I will give you a quick overview of the co-op program at WIL programs and the students that work for us. We'll tell you about our approach to midterm evaluations and to goal setting. Andrew's going to tell you a little bit more about how we've made the connection between goal setting and evaluation and the Future Ready Talent Framework. He will also give you some information on our use of technology and how we've used that to engage our students through the process. When we summarize everything for you, we do also have 3 resources that we'll be sharing with you, resources that we've developed internally to help us with evaluations and engagement. And you're welcome to use those resources in your own work as you're working with co-op students. And as Vicki mentioned, of course, we do have time for any questions that you might have at the end of the session. Okay, so co-op at WIL programs, just to give you a little bit of context so you understand where we're coming from and how we've developed these best practices. Supervising, mentoring, and coaching full-time co-op students is actually a core component of the work that we do within our department. So our department oversees academic programming that centers around skill development for Waterloo students during their work integrated learning experiences. And most of that happens through very large online professional development courses. So we hire full-time co-op students to help us administer those courses. They work as teaching assistants, but we hire quite a few co-op students. Each term we have between 15 to 25 full-time co-op students working for us, and they often outnumber the number of full-time staff within our department. We have about 20 full-time staff, so it really changes the landscape of the work that we do internally. And they're supervised by a team of instructional support coordinators like Andrew. So because we have so many co-op students and they're supervised by quite a few instructional support coordinators, we've developed quite a robust orientation and training program and best practices to stay consistent from supervisor to supervisor and term to term, and really created an experience for our co-op students that work for us. So because of that, we have developed these internal resources and best practices for evaluation and goal setting that we found to be really effective when it comes to engaging our co-op students, giving them really meaningful work terms. And that's why we are happy to share that with you today. We are currently working from home. We have been since last year, of course. And so that has also, of course, impacted how we engage our students and make sure that they're still having really fulfilling experiences, even though we never get to meet them in person anymore, although we're looking forward to that again in the future. So to give you some background on goal setting and reflection, this practice that we have is truly the basis for how we approach evaluation for our students, performance evaluation later on in the term. we ask our students to set 3 goals whenever they're working for us, and it happens very early in the term. We find that timing is really important to engage students through goal setting, and then to build on that throughout the term as we lead up to the evaluation. So within the first 3 weeks of the student's term with us, they do set 3 SMART goals. One of the resources will help you understand what SMART goals are, but they're specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. And we ask our students to think about how they can set goals that are workplace goals, academic, and personal. And engaging students through academic and personal goals is a really great way to build connections with them and to make sure they have a meaningful co-op experience, even if it's maybe not the work term that they thought it was going to be, which is entirely likely right now, working from home during the pandemic, or also for a lot of our co-op students, like Judine mentioned, who are still figuring out what they want to do, making those connections to their academic program of study, and might struggle to set workplace goals that they see relevance in, and we can engage them through academic or personal goals that we can still support them and help them achieve those goals throughout the term, even if it's not workplace specific. We meet with our students regularly, which really helps us to track that progress with them, make sure that they are achieving their goals, and then we'll, of course, lead up to the evaluation toward the end of the term as well. Another important practice that we would really recommend is considering how you can provide support for relevant goals, especially relevant workplace goals, when it comes to training and development. So within our department, we offer 2 hours of development time for any of our co-op students who want to take advantage of that. So if they would like to work on a course, a workshop, do some online training for a particular skill that feeds into one of their goals, we will give them that time. And we really actively encourage our students to think about the training that would be relevant to them and how we can make that happen for them. All Waterloo students have free access to LinkedIn Learning, and that's usually a great place to start. And we've had some pretty good luck with that, having students do training on HTML or Excel so that it can support their goals. Like I mentioned, we use the early timing with goal setting and reflection to build up to the midterm and final evaluations. And Andrew's going to tell you a little bit more about that process right now.
Thanks, Natalie. So I'll start with talking about the midterm evaluation and self-assessment process. So I and the team of instructional support coordinators I work with meet individually with our co-op students at the midterm point to discuss their performance from the first half of the term. Prior to that meeting, we provide our co-op students with a midterm self-assessment document, which we'll be sharing at the end of this session, where we ask them to identify their strengths, areas for improvement, and skills that they haven't yet demonstrated. I personally allow my co-op students a full week to reflect and fill out that document prior to the meeting. We also complete that assessment and identify similarly those strengths, areas for improvement, and areas where they could be further developing the second half of the term. But at those sit downs, at those meetings, we compare answers. We really talk through it. This two-way discussion enables our students to really advocate for what they've practiced or maybe haven't had a chance to practice in the first half of term, and allows them to maybe provide examples and really could identify some blind spots, things that you're not seeing yet. We often create a performance plan with our co-op students that's based upon the competencies assessed in that final co-op evaluation. I'll just give a little example to highlight that. I've worked with a co-op student over the winter term who was fantastic in a lot of aspects of the job. One area that I really thought she could develop on in the second half of term was an initiative. So I laid out some tangible steps. One of those steps were to look at our current course and identify potential areas for course improvement. I could happily say that she did fulfill that challenge that I set out for at the end of the term, and I noted that particularly in her final evaluation. What we also do is share how we would evaluate them based on their first half of performance. It really sets a bar for that second half. And then following the meeting, we share our notes. Something simple, but it really helps helps the student understand how to continue to demonstrate the identified strengths and how to follow up on our agreed upon performance plan. All of this enables transparency and clear expectations for our co-op students. It's really based upon the student's performance in the second half of the term and in your final evaluation meeting with the student that you can easily trace back from that midterm point. And I highlight what you've seen in the second half, particular strengths, areas for improvement you've observed in the second half of term, and then recommended future areas for improvement in future work terms. Next slide, please. So with the adoption of our Future Ready Talent Framework, and it's now built into our student performance evaluation, we identified a need within our team to align our midterm evaluation document. So in our new midterm evaluation, we are connecting the clusters, the talents, and finally their related competencies found in their student performance evaluation to ensure co-op students can draw the connections with all three of those pieces. We recognize the importance of maintaining that scaffolding from the midterm evaluation to that final evaluation. And so as mentioned in the previous slide, we as a co-op supervisor and co-op students can identify their strengths and areas for improvement, and those pieces particularly now are reflected in the final co-op evaluation. Next slide. Thank you. At Will Programs, we use a cloud-based portfolio tool called Pebblepad. Prior to our use of Pebblepad, we had tools or documents like the midterm evaluation available as a simple Word document. We would send it to our co-op students, they'd fill it out, they'd send it back to us. We chose Pebblepad particularly though, because not only was it available to us at the university, but it enabled us to create a living document. Something that allows for continuous editing, allows for supervisors and the student to add feedback and notes and be able to share those with one another easily, and allows for students and supervisors to then reflect back on those notes at any time, even after the work term. So I encourage you, if you have an ability to create like cloud-based documents or living documents, something like simple as Google Docs, highly recommend you check into that. Next slide, please. So I'm going to leave you with 3 takeaways here as our summary. One that Natalie talked about already was the importance of encouraging your students to create relevant goals. And we use SMART goals as our format to help students develop meaningful goals that they can achieve. And goals specifically that are connected to the job and really have meaning to students, not only for that term, but in their future career, whatever those next steps might be for them. A second piece is prior to the midterm and final evaluation discussions, we require our students to reflect on their performance and give them adequate time to reflect. So I encourage you to perhaps adopt that practice as well. And lastly, it's really important to communicate your performance expectations early in the term. For example, how and when you prefer to give, for your co-op students to give you updates. And so by doing that early on, you can then reflect back on that at the midterm point, and then you can then trace that discussion to your final evaluation, basically creating a continuous thread through the term. You know, always if you need to trace back to that earliest discussion, you can do that, but really make those connections clear to allow for transparency in your final evaluation. Next slide. So as briefly mentioned a couple points already, we're going to be sharing some resources with you. You're going to be finding a couple links to documents that will be made available to you in the chat. And they're going to be Google Doc links. So please feel free to download these resources for yourself. They are going to be editable to you. So feel free to shape them however best fits your needs, whether it's your managerial style or particular company culture. And I think that's everything we wanted to share for today. What questions do you have?
Thank you so much, Natalie and Andrew. That was a great presentation, and I think will really provide our employers for some great conversation starters for those evaluations and the importance of engaging. So we do have a couple of questions that have come through. So I'm happy to throw those over to you. The first question is, do you have any insights around what is a manageable ratio between number of co-ops per full-time manager?
Okay, I can share some of my experience with this. I've had teams as small as 1 or 2 and upwards of 11. From my perspective, 11 was a bit too much, maybe on my particular plate at that point in time. I currently manage groups of 4 or 5 co-op students, and it is pretty easily manageable. You can be able to mentor them individually, provide them guidance along the way, and I think that's a really important piece, is being able to have individual time with them. Beyond that, you may want to think of other structures. Natalie, do you have any additional take on that?
Yeah, I think that's a really great question, and certainly one that we've asked ourselves within our department as we hire more and more co-op students. And we really have found that the more one-on-one time we have with these students, the more we're able to make personal connections with them, the more productive they're going to be, the more interest they have in contributing to strategic initiatives within our department. And so we don't want to lose that by bringing on too many students. For me, when I'm planning for the number of students we're hiring and thinking about the supervisors, the max number that I would consider for a single supervisor would be 6 students. 5 or 6 it's a busy term when you're working that closely with them and trying to engage all of them. So that's where we tend to stick. Of course, it is work dependent and office dependent as well. But if we would make a recommendation, I would say no more than 5 or 6 students per supervisor.
Thank you very much. So our next question is, how have you engaged students who don't get serious goals or fully participate in the midterm evaluation conversation?
I might hand that one over to Andrew to give the supervisor perspective.
Happy to. Yeah, I've been in situations where like that before. I have used a couple tactics. One is to learn more about your student, learn what their potential future career opportunities or what they're looking for and for the next steps, whether that's graduate school or right into the job market, and ask how this work term, this point in time, could be the next step for them towards their career. Help them make those connections and see what you can do as a supervisor to provide opportunities for them to be developing their skills during the current work term, so that they can then develop towards their career or next steps. The other piece is ask them, and it's probably a question you asked in your interview, but it's good to hear it again. Why did they apply to the job? What were they looking to get out of this position? It might be a good reminder for them that any given work term, they should be getting some kind of value and some kind of learning from it. So remind them of that and really encourage them to focus on valuable goal setting. And like the resource we shared about using SMART goal format, something that would be something achievable within that 4-month time span, or however the length of their particular job is.
Yeah, that's great. I think it speaks also to what Chaya talked about, really, with empathy in the keynote and understanding what's going on with that student and really connecting with them to try to engage them, I think, in that evaluation. So I definitely agree. We have another question here. How do you balance SMART goals with the need to be agile or be flexible to changing business needs and conditions?
Great question. We always are open to changing goals, whether it's to suit the needs of the business or the needs of the student. That sometimes goals, what was originally said at the beginning of the term, just doesn't make sense anymore. So with that said, we've been in positions before where a need came up from a business standpoint where we felt that the student's skill set would lend really well to meeting that initiative from us and having that sit down with them. And what the goals do is provide that motivational piece for them. They could be developing their skills through that project or initiative. So we're always flexible within our program, that there are always changing needs, and we rely a lot on our co-op students to be the people to support those projects and support those initiatives.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. My co-op student is definitely my right-hand man. Do you have any examples of students' workplace goals that contributed to a department initiative?
I can jump in on that one. We have quite a few examples of that. We've had some really great co-op students who have made huge contributions to our work, but I think a great example of one that came out of a student's personal goal that we were really able to connect to the workplace was a student who had identified really early on in the term that he wanted to learn Excel. It was more of an academic goal. He knew in the future he would need it for some of his upper year courses and wanted to learn more advanced functions within Excel. And through that goal and supporting him with picking up some Excel courses, he actually ended up creating a pretty advanced spreadsheet for us that completely changed our processes within the administration of our courses and has saved us, I don't know how many hours of work and therefore quite a bit of money within the department as well. But that was something that once that goal was identified, we made the connection to the work that could be done and how we could benefit from it. We made adjustments to his work throughout the term to arrange for him to do extra training, to take some other work off of his plate so that he could meet that goal and also undertake quite a large project for us that has been incredibly beneficial for our work. And that was probably close to 3 years ago, and we're still using that spreadsheet that he created for us, and very grateful that we were able to support him in that goal and get so much out of it as well.
Thanks very much, Natalie. So those are all of the questions that we have received during this session. Actually, you know what? I think there may be one that has come through. No, actually, sorry, that was the other one. So we have completed the Q&A on this one. So I would just like to thank Natalie and Andrew for this presentation and for providing these insights, and hope that our employers that are joining us are able to use this information to their advantage on the next co-op work term that they have. So thank you very much, and I hope everyone has a great day.
Thanks, everyone.